Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bolling, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Bob Beckel, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City. This is The Five. Last night, President Obama took immigration matters into his own hands, granting 5 million illegals a form of non-deportation amnesty. And moments ago, aboard Air Force One, the president signed that order. He addressed a Las Vegas crowd minutes later.
Now, I know some critics call this action amnesty. It's not amnesty. Amnesty really is the system we've got today. You've got millions of people who are living here, but they're not obliged to pay their taxes or play by the rules. And then politicians just use the issue to scare people and whip up votes at election time. So they want to keep the system as is. That's the real amnesty, just talking, leaving this broken system the way it is.
But conservatives aren't happy with the president unilaterally changing American law. El Presidente getting a ton of pushback from Republicans, possibly more than he expected.
This is 5 million people being given amnesty that Congress rejected, that the American people have rejected, that will pull down the wages of working Americans, will make jobs harder for them to find, will create a system in the future that will invite more people to come unlawfully.
Trust. Interesting concept, trust. Can President Obama earn the trust of the now Republican Senate and House? And does it matter if they trust him? Speaker John Boehner says it all may be lost. Watch.
With this action, the president has chosen to deliberately sabotage any chance of enacting bipartisan reforms that he claims to seek. And as I told the president yesterday, he's damaging the presidency itself. He created an environment where the members would not trust him. And trying to find a way to work together was virtually impossible.
So, Dana, what about that? I mean, do we want them working together? Will that help? And will the Republicans ever trust President Obama again?
Well, we need them to do something in Washington. I mean, first of all, national security being the most important thing. And this being possibly, in some ways, a national security issue. Yes, they are going to have to work together in some way. I would not want to be White House Legislative Affairs office today because I'm sure they're getting an earful. And it's going to be very difficult. Just 2 weeks ago, the day after the midterm election, after President Obama lost so many seats, he said, the lesson I've learned is that people want us to work more together in Washington. 10 days later, he pulls this move. And what we find out today in the Politico article, they've been planning to do this for 9 months. Okay, so it was in the works behind the scenes. I guess in some ways, I think the Republicans are in a little bit of a bind. You said that the president might be getting more pushback than he expected. I actually think it's a little bit less than he expected. I think what they really wanted today is a whole bunch of Republicans to come out and start screaming impeachment and shutdown. It didn't happen from the two the two leaders, Boehner and McConnell. We'll see if that changes over time, but I think right now it's sort of a measured response, trying to figure out, is it legal, what he did? I think that the court could weigh in, but that could be a long time from now. In the meantime, across the board, scholars that look at the Constitution say that this is crossing a Rubicon, meaning you've crossed a line that you cannot ever go back to. So to your question, long way of getting there, can they rebuild trust? I think it'll be very difficult.
Greg, during that speech in Las Vegas, a heckler was yelling out, and President Obama's response was, hey, it's a first step, but not the only step. Does that mean we have a lot more coming?
I don't know. You know, I do have a question for Captain Compassionate. What's the difference between families that are crossing our borders and families dying in Syria? It's a bigotry of distance. What is the difference? Why are these families more important than the others? It's because they're a voting bloc. We're not supposed to get involved in places like Syria where people are dying, but we have to do everything we can as a compassionate nation to deal with people who are crossing the borders illegally because they're close. But I want to address something I don't understand about this act. So the act is going to get the good illegal immigrants out of the shadows, and it's going to get the bad deported. But if the criminals aren't part of the process, then they will not come out of the shadows. So he never really separates the good from the bad. He picked the good while the bad remains in the shadows. So there's no incentive on those to actually take part of the process. If you are a bad illegal, this has no effect on you. You stay, you hide, you do whatever you want. All this really did was just granted amnesty to people other than the people we wanted to leave.
Let me piggyback that a little bit.
It shows that the numbers are even larger than he's saying, because you're taking the good in with the bad and the people who are not law-abiding.
Focus in on this for a second. In 2013, there were 36,000 criminal illegals that were released to the streets of America. Literally hundreds, if not thousands, of those people had violent crimes like murder, like rape, like aggravated assault. They released them onto the streets of America. Now you add 5 million more. I mean...
Well, and the problem is they're in the wind, right? They have no incentive to go in and report and turn themselves in or to try and start the process because they have criminal context. They have a criminal record. These are people that are recidivists, that are people likely to reoffend, whether they have committed sexual assault crimes, robberies, homicides, crimes of violence. They're still out there. So now we have these people that are going to essentially cut the line, and the president shows no regard for the Constitution, for the laws of the land, for the will of the people. And in fact, the damage that he's done to public confidence, because he didn't listen to it. He had this, as Dana said, planned 8 or 9 months ago. No matter what the outcome, he was going to get it done because he cares more about his friends and advancing his political ideology than what the people do.
Wait, one second.
The 5 million people are not all bad people.
That's exactly right. The idea of suggesting that in one sentence, you said 31,000 people.
36,000.
36,000 were released who were criminals, and then you said now there's 5 million more. Take that back. That's absolutely wrong.
No, I didn't say there were 5 million more
criminals.
Yes,
you did. Listen to it. Listen to it, Eric.
I said
Please
they let 36,000 criminal illegals
and then
go
you said,
last
now
year.
You get 5
million
more.
And now you have 5 million more who are on the books and in the system now. And by the way, if they couldn't do it in 2013, they're going to be able to do it in 2014 or 2015.
No matter how hysterical you get, it doesn't make what Obama did a good thing.
Well, wait, Bob's right, though.
I was trying
Bob is
to
right.
No one's talking about 5 million.
I mean, you have to clarify. What you said sounded exactly what Bob heard.
It
did. So you just have to clarify.
Here's what I said 36,000 criminal illegals were released in 2013. There's no disputing that. That's been documented, right?
Some
of them had hardened criminal backgrounds. And I said there will be 5 million more on the books that they can track, and you're going to tell me there's going to be no more crime within the 5 million
Eric,
more.
The way you said it,
you just have to distinguish.
Like there were 5 million more people who were criminals.
Here's something that no one can. I'm guessing you can't dispute this. Anyone at this table, when you add more people to the roles, to the work roles, Bob, you add more available labor. What happens to wages?
I think there is going to take a hit in
wages go down,
yes,
right?
I agree with that.
Let's talk about the middle class. When wages go down at the bottom, don't wages go down in the middle and all the way at the top? Doesn't the whole ladder go down?
Could I just give you a couple of facts that we want to talk about facts here? Peter Hart, who is the pollster with the Wall Street Journal, did a poll that showed they gave the president's action to the people that they called, specifically what he said. They favored him bypassing Congress 51 to 41. They favored this overall proposal 60. And you know who didn't? By 3 to 1 were the Tea Party Republicans. Even Republicans in Congress, even Republicans support the president on this proposal, only by 2 points. But the Tea Party people oppose him 3 to 1.
Okay, can we move on? The Republicans are having a hard time swallowing the Obama snake oil, especially because he himself was saying he didn't have the power to do this not too long ago.
With respect to the notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case because there are laws on the books that Congress has passed.
Well, that's a smoking gun, and Democrats know it. Here's former Obama press secretary Jay Carney, incapable of providing cover for the president.
I think if you could have those words back, especially the first clip where he specifically talked about suspending deportations, then, that is literally what he's doing today.
In other words, Bob, oops.
Yeah, what he said in 2011 was exactly wrong. What he did here today was doing what he said he couldn't do. And I agree with that, and I agree with Carney. It was something he wished he had back, but the fact still remains that legally he's on firm ground.
Where?
With the public, he's on firm ground.
Where? Again, I'll say it again. I said it. There's nowhere in the Constitution where it allows him to unilaterally change American law.
Let's take a look and see what the courts do. They have had 11 presidents in a row have made these decisions. He can make the decision to emphasize who he's going to deport and who he's not going to deport.
I don't know that he can do that by himself.
I have a question, though. How does he know? How does anybody know how long someone's been here? They're giving a time frame, and it's like if you're here illegally, then you can say whenever you were here, I just got here last year. How do you do that?
I tell you, in most cases, the way they do that is they have receipts from things that they bought. They have electric bills they paid. They've had a number of things that they have to prove that they bring forward to prove that you've been here 5 years or more. And if your kids are here legally, why in the world could anybody with a conscience, anybody, send their parents
Would you
home?
feel that same way if they were Chinese, Bob?
Absolutely.
Really? Yeah. Because I've heard you talk about denying visas to Chinese students coming over here.
Wait a second. Wait a second. No,
I'm trying to figure out where our compassion ends.
And Muslim students in colleges.
Please.
I'm just trying to figure out where the compassion begins and ends. That's all.
Where he says it does.
I said that
I'll let him finish.
I said that I wanted Muslims who had student visas, of which there were about 15,000 who were missing, who didn't show up at their school, to be investigated before we allowed them in. I never said that you should not have allow educational visas to Chinese who come here. I said that what we're doing, though, is we're educating them, they're going back, and they're hacking us. I don't know what you do about that. Okay. I never said that.
I didn't mean to mischaracterize what you said then.
All right, you want to move on to 2016. Immigration is setting up to be a huge topic for the 2016 presidential election. The presumptive, in my opinion, Democrat Hillary Clinton waded into the debate late last night tweeting this, quote, tweet, thanks to POTUS for taking action on immigration in the face of inaction. Now let's turn to permanent bipartisan reform, #immigration action. Okay, gotcha, Madam Secretary. You're on board with the Obamnesty.
No, well, she's got to get on board because Elizabeth Warren's on board and other people that will be seeking the Democratic nomination, right? So this makes sense for her, and this is, of course, a large part of the electorate that she would be hoping to come out to support her in her campaign if she's running for 2016.
Well, I do think that the fact that she even did such a lengthy statement shows that she actually is running, and she should be treated like a candidate and have to answer to whether or not she thinks that this is the right process. She had said in the past, like President Obama did, that he did not have the power to do this. And so for those voters that are going to care about the process in the future, and process of how we actually used to do such action in the past, that will be important to them. It will be an issue, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be on process. It has to be on substance, and that, I think, is a problem I have with the debate so far. The process point is an easier one to make. The substantive point of then how would you fix it is a more difficult one, perhaps one that could get solved in the next Congress, but that's where the rub really is.
You know, one of the things...
And the opportunity.
One of the things we should be clear here is that nobody who's granted this will be allowed to vote in the 2016 election. So that is a moot issue. Now,
and hopefully not the 2020 or the 24.
Well, no, they may be, but 24. I think that's right.
Yeah,
but
that's not what the thing
I'm not
says.
suggesting that
that's
this
not
is
the plan.
If these people were all voting Republican as a general rule, would they be so easy to let them in? Probably not. I mean, I think that's probably fair. But I do think that you have to be careful when you say the only reason you do this. You know, the way to handle this is the Republicans now, with the votes they have in the House and Senate, ought to pass a immigration reform bill, and Obama would be hard-pressed not to sign it.
That's a good point. I agree. But that's in the next block, right?
For
2 points. Jonah Goldberg made an interesting observation last night. He said, if this action was nothing out of the ordinary, as President Obama said, why are the fans of it acting like it's a heroic miracle? So there's a bit of a contradiction there. The other thing, too, is about the semantics, which America has a hard time trusting a president when the language keeps changing, when terrorism is workplace violence. If breaking the law is considered dreaming, consider the implications. Could theft be a wish to own something? We're screwing with the language so that the logic allows for a redefinition of abuses, so that almost anything can mean anything. Rioting,
such as the Affordable Care Act, really being about bringing down the cost of health care.
Right. By the way, if you can change the immigration law, can you change, I don't know, the drug laws in America if you don't agree with them? Or can you change the penalties for murder in America if you don't agree with them? I mean, what's the difference?
No, but you're making a great point, because it's establishing a precedent here. And like you said, Dana, once you take this step, and then it'll go up to the courts and we'll make the determination. This is then forever going to be a precedent for others to go forward. And maybe it's a guy in office you don't like, or a woman in office you don't like, Bob, that can do this exact same. And the point is, we have to honor the Constitution and the laws and the legal process and find a way to do this correctly, not just one man.
But my one quick thought is, unlike these other categories you talk about, there are anywhere between 11.5 to 15 million people in this country illegally, and there's no way you can send them home.
Well, not a good argument. stay on the law.
I actually think that is a very good argument.
To break the law?
No, I don't understand. Like, what is it?
Change the law.
Do you believe it's feasible to deport 12 million people who are here illegally?
No, but there are other answers.
What are they?
There are other answers.
And that's the problem.
Legal immigration.
What about following the law that's there?
Legal immigration.
File the applications, put forward the paperwork, and it might take you longer, but there are laws that are in place. And first of all, it's too much of an attractive nuisance because there is no border security. It certainly is insufficient. We have people now coming in, not just from Mexico, but from Honduras as well. This is wide open. It's wide open.
Because it's illegal to file an application to become a citizen if you're here illegally to begin with.
You want to know something, Bob? That's a better change
that
than saying everyone gets blanket, that you can stick around and you don't have to file.
Make a modification.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. When we come
laws.
back, what can Republicans do to stop the president? Our advice for the GOP next.